It's time for the Everyman, where real man talk.
Let's go. Time to grind, get inside your mind. Yeah, we working overtime. That's the only way to climb. We gon' make it in our prime. Signing on the dotted line, cashing checks left and right. That's the way I'm living.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Everyman podcast. Now, tonight we have a very special guest. We have Sam Winnall, who is a professional footballer and a trainee counsellor. How are you doing tonight, Sam?
Very well, thank you, and pleased to be here and excited to see what we've got in store.
Yeah, very excited to have you on. You are technically our first professional footballer, even though we've had many come on or talk to us and say, yes, we'd love to come on. So hopefully you're the start of us talking to many professional footballers, because I think it's a really big topic, men's health, and someone who's played in front of thousands of people and been sort of a role model for thousands of young people. I think it's really important that you're coming on and sharing your views on mental health and how important it is that individuals look after their health.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's massive.
What we usually kick off each podcast. I think there's a slight delay here on my side. Apologies. I think it's my internet. Absolutely fine. Not in the best place tonight for internet. So Sam, you were saying there, yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think there is a slight delay, as you were saying. Yeah, as it's massive. I mean, it's for me, it's exactly the same as physical health, and I think that is something that it took me a long time to realise, and especially far into my career, about the effects it can have of having not just having poor mental health or mental health where you feel as if you're struggling, but having good mental health and the importance of that as well. And trying to stay as kind of neutral as possible, not finding the highs go too high and the lows go too low. It's about finding that balance and finding that neutrality somewhere in the middle. So yeah, it's huge. And I think the more that I've learned about it and the more that I've kind of grew within the industry and stuff like that, it just kind of elaborates what I've just been saying in saying that it's so important, not just for professional footballers or any other sports industry, but for everyone.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. And the fact it just probably isn't spoken about enough is something that we really need to make sure happens more often. Now, we usually start each podcast by going around each of us lads and just saying, generally, how has our week been? How are we feeling? Everything all right? Ethan, I'm going to start with you first, mate. How are you? How's your week been? And everything okay?
Yeah, mate. I'm really grateful, for our guests coming on tonight, and I'm loving the fact that I've had quite a shit week and shit weekend, and the fact that you stuttering and stalling and being delayed is actually cheered us up. So I'm really happy that you've embarrassed yourself in front of our first pro footballer other than yourself, who, just in case you didn't know, Sam, Lewis is doing himself a disservice. He was at Plymouth as a younger child, so he's been there and done that, mate, but he doesn't like to talk about it too much, just every podcast. But no, it's been
mate, he is such a dick.
Sorry, mate, I can't hear you. It's the lag. Sorry. We'll just put that down to the lag. Yeah, it's been a tough week for me, guys. I'm not going to lie. I've had a really tough professional week. A few doors have closed that I opened myself, and I try to kick a few doors down professionally to progress, and they've shut me face. And some people might say it's my fault. Some people might say otherwise. But so it's been a tough one, and I've not been too well, chap. So not the best of week, but our football team that Lewis was responsible for setting up for, which gets a lot of young lads involved, and extended our own beaten run on Sunday, so that cheered us up as well. So yeah, and Lewis will tell you got man of the match for the 8th game in a row or something, Lou. Hot streak, personal. Go on, you can tell Sam. Sam's a friend now. You can tell him it's all right.
Mate, I'm not going to say anything
shy.
because I think Sam's already got. I think Sam's got it that no matter what I say, you're just going to rip me for it. So I will take it, but I'll take it offline and have your life back in the chat later on, mate. So all good. Dean, how are you getting on, mate?
I'm doing well, mate. Having a good week back to reality for me. I'm working out with yourself, Lewis, most mornings, most afternoons, going for runs and stuff, feeling like I'm getting fit, losing weight. Really nothing else to report, to be honest. Excited to have a professional football on and get the ins and outs of what it's about. Being that I like to think of myself as living as a professional, just I don't play as a professional. But Reece, what about yourself, mate?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, had a good week at work. Saturday did a bit of DIY in the garden, put up a fence with my stepdad, and then yesterday I did an aquathlon again. Came 10th in that. The swim was absolutely brutal. Don't do much swimming, so 500 meters of swimming really took it out of us, but I recovered a bit on the run. But yeah, all good. How about you, Luke?
Yeah. Again, I don't know when I'm talking and when you can actually hear me here. So I can see by the laughter, there's clearly a big gap. There's pretty much as big of a gap as Ethan leaves when you take a shot in the goal. So apologies for everyone who's listening. I'm good. I think I'm sick of the sight of Dean. I've seen him, including today, probably like 8 days in a row or something. And for anyone who knows Dean, I think about 8 minutes is usually enough with him. Never mind 8 days in a row. And he's just told me this weekend that he's free on Saturday as well, which means he's already trying to film our Saturday. But yeah, good. I'm in a really good place, mate. I'm training a lot, running a lot. Like I did a gym, then a run this morning, then work. Just trying to be healthy and get a bit fitter, to be honest. Trying to get in a better place. Sam, how are you? How's your week been, mate?
Very good, thank you. Bit of a strange one. I was up at the in-laws' house, house sitting and looking after some farm animals. So I'm not really used to that. Bit chaotic, looking after the goats, chickens, rabbits, 2 dogs and a baby. So that was bit chaotic, but enjoyed it as well. Enjoyed it at the same time. But no, I'm in a good place too. I mean, I'm doing my level 4 counselling qualification at the moment. So this week's kind of assignment was to write a CV, and I've never written a CV ever before. So that was a nice task put to me. So yeah, in a good place, and just enjoying life.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. And I'm hopefully, look, they're laughing because of the lag, and I'm really sorry to anyone listening. I'll drop off and come back, and hopefully that helps a little bit. If not, I will hand the baton over to one of the other guys to lead. Let's hope they can do as good of a job. Sam, one
just
question.
Don't come back, Lou. It's fine.
Just don't come back. All right, mate.
Yeah.
I think one thing to ask is, how have you found this year with I suppose, well, am I right in thinking you're still looking for your next club? Is that something that's like how have you found it not maybe being in pre-season and then sort of where you are now?
Yeah, it's difficult. There's been a lot of days where you wake up and you don't want to go to the gym, or you don't want to go for a run, or you just want to pig out on the sofa because you know that essentially you haven't got to go to training. But it's tough. It's hard to stay disciplined, and obviously getting to this stage of my career now where it's not as easy to get a club as it was when I was maybe 10 years younger. I am currently training with a team. I won't give too many details away, but I'm keeping myself fit and I'm enjoying football again. And just seeing where that takes me. To be honest, it's I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Being a free agent and not starting the season is difficult mentally, because all you want to do is be playing on a Saturday when you see all your mates, ex-teammates and stuff like that playing and having success, playing in front of crowds. And you do feel as if you're missing out. You do feel as if you've had a purpose and it's just been taken away from you. So it's very challenging. The best thing you can do is just try and stay adaptable, and just be ready for when the phone rings, and stay positive, because like I say, there's so many people in my life around me that are there to support me. The last thing I want to do is kind of take out my frustrations out on them. So I think that's the main aim, is to try and just be in a positive mood for the people around you.
Yeah, Sam, you just mentioned there, mate. Just jumping in, obviously, having looked at your career, you've had a great career, mate, and obviously I hope things work out at this club. You can tell us off air. Thank God Vindy's gone as well. You can tell us off air, maybe give some information on what's going on. But I just want to look back, and now you can tell as much as you want or as little as you want, just about the injury side of things, because obviously there was an issue last season. You spent a lot of time on the sidelines, having looked over your career. How did you get past those barriers and come back stronger every time? Because you've got to be a point where we're quite open on this chat with mental health and feeling down. And myself just earlier, you heard. How did you get all those obstacles and come to the other side? Was it a case of friends, a partner, a family? Would you mind explaining a little bit more about that for anyone who may be going through a similar issue or have struggled in the past?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think one of the good things that I've had is that in my kind of first year professional, when I was at Wolves, I tore my ACL, and that left me out for 6 months. And I think that was just a reality check of what can be really within football. And that kind of taught me to be resilient in moments like that, in moments where you are injured, you're in the gym alone a lot of the time, and having to kind of rely on yourself for motivation and discipline. The biggest thing you can do is just keep going and treat every day as it comes. And there are going to be days where you're not feeling great, or you're down, or you're not at your best. And I think it's being kind to yourself on those days and making sure and giving yourself a bit of a break and just understanding yourself and your own moods. But then on the days where you are feeling positive, you need to really seize the day and make the most of it. And I think that's the way you kind of have to take all forms of injuries, is just try and take it day by day and control what you can control that day. The most frustrating thing that I had last year was all the injuries that I had like 3 different ones, and they were kind of half niggly. Like, there weren't really ones where I thought, or in my ankle injury, I ruptured a ligament in my ankle in February, which kind of saw me off for the season. But the first 2 I had in the first half of the season, they were just such frustrating ones which weren't massively substantial, but ones that were keeping me off the field. And they're the hardest ones, I think sometimes the longer term ones are easier because you just kind of get your head around the fact that you're not going to be playing for a while and you've got no other alternative but to just grind it out every day. But when the ones are like little niggly ones where you're like waking up just hoping to feel a little bit better, which might have a little bit of progress, that's where the frustration lies when it comes to injuries. But I think, like I say, because I've done 2 ACLs, 2 really long-term injuries, I'm in a good place, not in a good place, but I'm quite well experienced when it comes to injuries and how to deal with them. Because they are, like you say, they're the bane of all sports people's lives, because they essentially stop you doing from what you want to do. So, but as I say, experience helps. That's the only thing I'd describe it as.
Nah, top man. I appreciate that.
So
Lewis is back and he thinks
I still
it's his
have a lag.
podcast again.
I am sorry, I have a lag. I still have a lag, don't I? I'm really sorry because I jumped in there first.
Sam, we can't get the staff, can we?
Yeah, don't worry.
Hands up if we should kick Lewis off the podcast for good. And Sam becomes the new leader.
Not even just tonight, for good.
For
good, that's it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sam, we are hiring now. Sam, we are hiring for lead host if you want to apply. Sack the club off and come join us.
Well, I need a job, lads, so,
Sorry, we don't pay anything. We actually charge you to be on the podcast. It's just 30 bags a week. I hope you don't mind. I'll get you on there, mate. Just before Vindy jumps back in, Sam, I just want to elaborate. I really appreciate you opening up there, mate. I know it's something that's not really, something that's considered widely talked about, and it could be a bit of a dark path and bringing up stuff that you probably don't want to chat about. Something personally I've struggled with is diet my whole life, eating and overeating. I'm quite a big binge eater, which I'm looking to get help for. A few of the lads are as well. Now, obviously, I can imagine nutrition in your line of profession is controlled very much so. But do you personally subscribe to any sort of diets or anything like that? Obviously, to counteract any injuries. I know vegan. A lot of people try vegan diets to help inflammation, things like that. Is there anything you maybe have tried and along the way that you can maybe share with us just on the diet side of things?
I mean, I did try a vegan diet, tried it for 6 months, and if I'm going to be totally honest, mate, it made me really unhappy.
Yeah.
Made me
How
really,
comes?
really unhappy. I just felt hungry all the time, just felt not satisfied with the food that I was eating. And I mean, I enjoy food. I love my food. Obviously, you have to be quite careful and balanced with the food that I have. And you kind of have to pick your moments when to kind of enjoy food and when to see it as fuel, essentially. But yeah, I mean, I've tried things before, but I didn't really enjoy the veganism. And it wasn't for any other reason other than I wanted to give it a go and see if it did have a positive influence on my performance. But I didn't feel it because mentally it was probably putting me down. So yeah, I've tried it. But to be honest, the big thing for me is balance. And I think that's the big thing. I think it's kind of getting into that mindset of, do I need this or is this going to help me? And I think there are times where I think, well, yeah, it is. It is going to help me. I need to, give myself a little bit of a breather. You can't be, completely committed to eating perfectly all the time. There are times where you can enjoy yourself within professional football. It's not as if you're so disciplined that you don't get a chance to enjoy yourself. But I think there's a time and a place for it. And I think that's the big thing that I've kind of tried to stick by throughout my whole career, even more so as I've got older, because I think as you get older, it becomes more prevalent, more important. And when you're a kid, you can get away with it a bit more. But yeah, I think the big thing is balance. Big thing is kind of having that discipline of saying, you know what, like I probably shouldn't have this today. Maybe I'll have it on Saturday after a game, after I've just burnt 3,000-4,000 calories. And I think that's the way I've kind of approached diet throughout my whole career.
Nah, top man, I appreciate that. I mean, balance is something me and a few of the lads haven't quite worked out. I mean, I still have 2 garlic baguettes with every meal I ever have, including breakfast. So I need to be careful of that. But I appreciate that, Sam. I appreciate that, mate.
I mean, garlic baguettes are nice, so I do.
Oh, mate.
They're very nice, so I can understand why you've chosen that.
100%, mate. They complement every meal very nicely, I must say.
Even cereal.
Oh, even cereal, mate. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Anyways, mate, I think I've took enough of your time. We'll hopefully Lewis has sorted his internet out, even though he works for an internet provider. So, Lou, over to you, pal.
Yeah, I hope it's. Can you hear me normal now? You can't, can you?
Yeah, it seems better.
Unfortunately,
yes,
yes,
much
better.
Great.
Yeah.
So apologies to all listeners here. So Sam, there was a point around you saying that you've had 2 ACLs. Now, I've not had an injury like that before. So my question would be, what does the next day actually look like? So you've been stretchered off a pitch. I presume you've gone to hospital. You've had your scans. Like, what does the next day, and then what does the first day back at actually at training? What does that realistically look like?
Well, it was interesting. It was different for me with both of them. So with my first one, I was 18. It was my first game of pre-season as a professional while I was at Wolves. That one I knew straight away. When it happened, I felt a pop. People around me heard a pop. Gas. I had physios run on, giving me gas and air. Got stretchered off. You don't actually go straight to the hospital with an ACL. Most people walk out of the stadium, which is quite crazy. So you walk out and then you don't have a scan for probably until the next day or a couple of days afterwards. And then you get the dreaded bad news, I suppose, to be told that, you've got to have an operation and there's nothing that you can do that's going to get you back before 6 months. And that is the absolute quickest you'll ever get signed off to get back to playing football. My second one at Derby was incredible, mate. I mean, I did it during the game. And I remember doing it. We were playing Brentford at home. I chased down a fullback, went to change direction, and just felt a little pop in my knee, hyperextension. Nothing bad. Didn't feel as if I'd done anything drastic. Physio come on, said he did some checks for me, said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." And I actually finished the game.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, finished the game. Played pretty well, won a penalty. Which was just insane. And then I came off at the end of the game, and my knee had swollen a little bit. So I just said to the physio, "Oh, my knee's still a bit sore from that moment when you come on. What do you want me to do?" And they says, just come in tomorrow, see the physios, we'll do some treatment on it, and then we'll get you a scan, just in case. Anyway, came in. I mean, I went out that night for dinner, had a few drinks, felt absolutely fine. Went in the next day to have a little bit of treatment, had the scan, and then 24 hours later, the Monday morning, got called in by the doctor and the physio and just said, "Look, it's the worst news, Sam. You've torn your ACL." And at that, I genuinely thought they'd scanned the wrong knee. I genuinely thought they'd scanned the wrong knee because I was walking fine. If you'd have asked me to do a jog, I probably could have done it. I couldn't have trained or anything like that, but I knew it was. I felt as if it wasn't that bad. I wasn't in that much of pain. That was tough, really tough. It hit me hard because of kind of the age where I was at, the situation I was at, because I was 20. I just turned 27, which is kind of your prime as a footballer. I was at Derby, where I was kind of on loan, where I was loving my time there. Really enjoyed the club and thought everyone there was amazing. And it just brought up the fear of what comes next, really. And you straight away thinking, right, is this career over? And although an ACL isn't the worst injury to overcome now. I mean, you see so many people coming back stronger from them. It still casts that doubt in your brain, and I think I needed a good couple of days to kind of process it. So thankfully the Derby physio staff were brilliant. They gave me a couple of days off. They gave me the Tuesday, Wednesday off, and then I had the operation on the Thursday. And then it's all uphill from there. Thankfully, it's just you get the operation out of the way. You come out feeling horrendous, pain. Worse than the pain of after the operation is worse than the pain of doing it. But thankfully,
and is that just because they've cut you open so much? Is that why they've had to open the leg and there's other injuries that they've caused by doing it, or why is it so much more
kind of, yeah. It's quite a brutal operation, mate. Like the it's not delicate. They kind of smash you about because they have to completely open your leg up, your knee up, really. And the way that I've had two, so I've had a hamstring graft on my right side, which is where they take a part of the hamstring to make as the new ligament, and then on my other side I had my patella tendon, so they cut a little bit of your patella tendon and make that as the operation. But yeah, it's kind of the trauma of surgery which makes it extremely painful.
Yeah, that sounds honestly horrific. Luckily, it's not something that I've ever been through. Guys, Dean, Reese, what's your sort of injuries? Reese, you must have had some bad ones, I presume, with all the exercise that you do.
Yeah, I've had a few. Shin splints was a bad one I had from when I one of my not the same in any stretch, but the pain I was in through the shin splints. It was I did a charity challenge which was 13 half marathons in 13 days, and by 7th one maybe I was just in absolute agony. So yeah, that was a tough one. It took us a good 2-3 months to recover from that as well. I couldn't really do anything after it because it became painful to walk, everything. It wasn't just when I was running. And then my collarbone as well, when I smashed that playing for Dudley on a Sunday morning. The centre back just decided to crippers when I was running when I didn't have the ball and just landed. Thought I'd dislocated my shoulder. Yeah, thought I dislocated my shoulder because there was a big lump. Got to hospital. Thought they were just going to pop it back in, and the X-rays showed that it was pretty smashed. I had to have a operation a couple of days later. Metal plate, crosshair screws into it, but yeah, that wasn't nice either. And then it's a time off work afterwards as well, which is I guess that's the worst part, because at the time I had a young son, and I was on SSP only, which is about 90 quid a week. So that's the most difficult part about an injury for, say, myself, when I was taking 6 weeks off work and you're losing pay, and then it's how am I going to pay the bills, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, Sam, this is probably a slightly different question, and again, you can answer this as honestly as you like around this. So, Premier League players get sort of 5, 6, 7 year contracts, and we've spoke to lots of people, even people who haven't quite come on the podcast yet, around maybe in the lower leagues, but still very high level. You're not maybe given that 5, 6 year deal where you have that full confidence that if I have a long injury, I'm okay for the next 3 or 4 years anyway. I've got that longevity in my contract. So did that ever come into your mind when you think, for example, I'm potentially going to be out here for 6, 8, 9, 12 months, and I might only have a 12-month contract? Was that ever something in your head where maybe that links into what Reece has said of, oh shit, I've got bills to pay after that 12 months, and then what happens after that?
I must admit, I was really fortunate with my ACLs, because when I did my first one, Wolves were brilliant. They said, look, don't worry about your contract situation. I actually had 18 months left. Well, I had 2 years left when I did it. And they said, look, don't worry about your contract. You will get the same amount of time to prove yourself even when you're back.
Brilliant.
Which was really good. And then thankfully, when I did come back, within 6 months, I'd proven myself, and they'd given me another 3-year deal. So, I mean, that was kind of like just massive weight off my shoulders, especially as an 18-year-old, first year pro. You know, for that to happen in my first game, it would have been so easy for the club to just say, you know what, we don't need to take a gamble on this guy or put any money into this guy. Let's just ease him out. He's got 2 years left on his contract. We'll see those 2 years out and then see him off. But the club were really good with me. Gave me, a really good deal for someone my age and the experience and the injury that I'd been through. So they were great on that front. With my second one, it was a little bit different because I was on loan at Derby, and I was actually hoping and there was kind of aiming to sign permanently from Sheffield Wednesday. And that injury kind of set off a ripple effect of events that meant that I had to go back to Sheffield Wednesday. But luckily, again, I had 2 years left on my contract. So it kind of takes away the pressure. And the timing wasn't great on that one because I did it in the February and I didn't actually get back playing properly in the first team until December. So that one was like 10 months. And then, to be honest, for the rest of the season, I was just playing catch up. I had no preseason. I had no games under my belt. And although I did make quite a few appearances in the second half of the season, like I didn't feel fully fit. I didn't feel fully right. And it wasn't until the next season, the start of the next preseason, where I fully started to feel recovered and that it wasn't a hindrance anymore. But yeah, I mean, you see it so often within football. Luckily that didn't happen to me at the time with the ACLs, but you see it so often that, guys will have a year's contract, they'll tear an ACL, the contract will finish, and then they have to find alternative modes of physiotherapy, whether that be using the PFA and going to St George's Park and using the facilities there, because you get 3 weeks free through the PFA, or just finding your own physio. And it can be really difficult. I'm just really thankful that hasn't happened to me.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam, just a quick one, mate. Building on obviously what Lewis has said there, just to move on from sort of injuries and things like that, but on the similar topic of contracts, obviously footballers get a bit of a bad rap, big wages, fancy cars, the women, things like that. I think that a lot of young men want themselves, they see obviously the Lamborghinis, things like that. But obviously it's quite the opposite. That's probably the upper end of the spectrum. You've got a handful of players who can probably do that. Obviously, I know now with the likes of Man City players and your Manchester United and things like that. But in fact, a footballer's career is so short and condensed. I mean, I would like, obviously, we're not going to talk money. That's not that distasteful. But if you can just sum up, if you had to work whilst you've had a contract at clubs, I mean, or do you do stuff on the side? I know obviously you want to go into counselling, which is fantastic and something I think would be a real benefit to other people. You're great to talk to, in that respect. But I would just like to know and just shed a bit of light on that, and the fact that whether things are as accurate as people may seem, and just try and debunk some of the myths of people have that on the go, if that's all right.
No, yeah, of course, it's a good question. To be honest, you're right. I mean, the Premier League has just such a disparity from the rest of the football league. Really, I mean, the Championship is still, a fantastic opportunity to earn money. Like it's life changing money, and there's no no way to describe it really. And I'm lucky enough that kind of I've played quite a few years in the Championship, so I've had a good living out of the game so far. But when you look at the Premier League numbers, especially now, it's the best league in the world. It's got the best players in the world. Of course, it's going to have the highest wages in the world as well. It's just natural that it's that way. It's the most entertaining and it gets the most fans. It is just got everything going for it. It's a fantastic business, essentially. And that business doesn't run without its players. If you took the players away from that business, unfortunately, it wouldn't work. And that's the one thing that you can't take away from football is as soon as you take the players off that pitch, there's no games. So I understand why players get paid and the best ones get paid a lot. And it is a hell of a lot as well. But it's not the players' fault, essentially. They've worked all their life to be that level. They've made so many sacrifices. They've, put in so many hours of practice to be where they be and made so many kind of been disciplined the whole life. And not just them, their families as well. Their families some families will have given up absolutely everything just for their son or daughter to have a great chance at being a professional footballer. And I was lucky that my family did that for me as well. So, I'll never be one of those people that turns around and says, that footballers don't deserve the money that they get paid. I do think it needs to be more level playing field from the Premier League to the Football League. I think as soon as you get into like League 1s and 2s, don't get me wrong, again, still on huge money in, respect to the rest of the world, but the disparity is just so uneven. I mean, the average wage, I think, in the Premier League is something like 65 grand a week.
That's 65. I think it's 75 the last I've seen.
Is it 75? Yeah. So it's 75 grand a week. I mean, you go down to League 2, say, which is four divisions lower than that, you're probably looking at 1,500 to 2 grand a week. Now, don't get me wrong, that's still 75 grand a year to 75 to 100 grand a year. Massive wage, it's brilliant. But the Premier League players are earning that in a week. It's 52 times more than what a League 2 player could be potentially earning. Now, I don't think the league is 52 times better than League 2. So there is a real disparity within the wages, and that even gets even worse when you go down into non-league.
National League.
Well.
Yeah,
exactly.
Massively.
When you go down into the National League, it can get even worse as well. So there is a myth, and I've been kind of put under that stigma myself, away from footballers. Like, oh, you're a footballer. Oh, you've got this, you've got that. You've earned this. It's all glitz glamour. It's not. It's not. But I do understand.
But you also,
sides.
But you'll also adjust to your means, right? Like we all have a life and live to a certain lifestyle. So like, yeah, I get that. And I do want to move away from the money conversation because I think your story is so much bigger than you being a footballer earning money. I feel like that's a great part for us to touch upon. But one thing that you just mentioned there around like parents making their sacrifice for their children to make it. So my parents made elements of sacrifice for me to try and make it. I know Ethan touched upon that before, and I failed, and all those sorts of things. And the challenge around all the away trips are 6 hours away, and you're out all day, and your parents are taking you to training 4 or 5 times a week, and like the amount of investment from parents to help their kids get anywhere near to being a footballer is crazy. What I would be really interested to understand is what were you like as a kid playing football? Were you so my friends who've made it, they were by head and shoulders by far the best our age groups. They were so there's a one of my friends is a footballer. I'll not say his name because again, there's no real reason to. But he's a year below me. He's played in the Premier League for years. He's now in the Championship. He's a centre back now. But us growing up, he was a centre midfielder and scored 80 goals from centre midfield on like junior football, not in academy football. And he was just head and shoulders above everyone. What were you like? So you've made it. You were a striker. Like, were you just banging in goals left, right, and centre on a Saturday before getting signed for a club? What was your academy career like? Yeah, I'd be really keen to understand all of that.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, maybe a little bit similar to that. Yeah, I mean, I started when I was about 5, playing for just a local team in Wolverhampton, where I'm from. And yeah, I think it was always kind of, you know, it was always kind of my dad's dream for me to be a footballer. We both are big Arsenal fans, you know, and it was always his dream for his son. And I'm an only child as well, so there was always big emphasis on me, you know, moving forward in whatever I did, because I had no kind of competition or no brother or sister to kind of get me out of the shit. You know, it was kind of all on me and my shoulders. But I think it was one of them. My first ever time my dad ever took me to a football kind of practice or training. It was like just stand by the goal, and when it comes to you, just kick it in. And I think I kind of just stuck doing that really. And then I got better at it, and I did it more, and then I got better at it again, did it more, and then it just became like that's what I wanted to do. I think, you know, you've all been kids yourselves. Like when you're good at something, you want to do it more, don't you? And I think that was the big thing for me. I just loved scoring goals, and I did that quite a lot for like Sunday League in my local team. I had quite a few scouts trying to take me from the age of like 8, 9, but my parents were quite, you know, strict with me in the sense that they wanted me to join an academy when I was ready. So then I joined Wolves Academy at 11 when I was in secondary school. And just really kicked on from there. It was a culture shock going from playing with your mates and just enjoying it and scoring, you know, 4 every week or whatever, to joining an academy where it is like it's like being a professional footballer from that age.
Yeah.
You know, you've got all the pressure. You understand the consequences of not having form, in the sense that if you're not playing, they'll just replace you. And they won't think twice about that either. And that's not saying anything against Wolves. That is academy football throughout the country, probably throughout the world. It is just, they're all looking for that one gem who's going to make them multi-million pounds or bring them success on the pitch. But I was lucky because my age group and my youth team, we had, I think there's about 6 that went on to play professional football and have a good career within football, that have played, you know, in the football league. Some have played in the Premier League. So, you know, it is a very rare occurrence. That is, you know, most age groups, if you get one that has a career in football, it's a success. But that also like kind of highlights the kind of risk that you take by trying to become a footballer or by joining an academy, because like, as you say, if you get one from an age group, in my age group, there was probably over 100 kids in the 6-7 years I was in the academy. There's probably 100 different players that came and played for us, but only 6 went on to have a career, and that's seen as an anomaly. So
it's
it
massive.
shows, it is. It's huge. So I mean, you just have to look at that and just see how hard it is to actually go on and to make a career within the sport.
Yeah, Reese, I'm sure you probably have some questions because Reese's son is at Newcastle currently, which you asked some questions last week. So last week we had a guy called Gary Petit on, and he looks after like young athletes, helping them to be successful, like an agent, and with like PR and those sorts of things. And he gave Reese some advice, and so be interesting, Reese, maybe to ask some of the questions or a similar sort of line of questioning, because I thought last week's conversation was really good.
Yeah, no, so my son is only 5. He doesn't turn 6 until January, so he can't actually play matches or anything yet, like with the FA rules. So he's at a really good club as well. And then he trains with, well, I've just been the training ground with him there. It's great. The coaches are amazing. The kids that are there, it's all really good, and it's a really good learning experience for him. I guess it's for someone that's a massive Newcastle fan, it's great to be able to go there. And then we're seeing one of the Newcastle players when we're driving out tonight. He stopped out of his car. He was getting pictures with like the young lads, and it's all just a great experience. And for me at the minute, it's all about him just enjoying it. I had a bit of pressure put on me when I was younger, and it put me off football. So I'm trying not to do that to him every day. It's just telling him just enjoy it. And I guess that's all I can really do as a dad, to be as supportive as I can and just make it, like I say, just about enjoyment. So what sort of tips could you give me that I could sort of not so much bring him on as a player, but just keep enjoying it, and how to keep him relaxed, like from when you were at the academy?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to hear. It's great to hear that your son's there, and I'm sure he's in good hands. I do know one of the coaches in the academy at Newcastle, Peter Ramage. I played with him at Barnsley. He played for Newcastle as well, actually.
Yes,
he did, yeah.
And he's a great guy. So I'm sure he's in very good hands. But I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head there. It is about just trying to get them to enjoy it as much as possible. I mean, I had, like I say, as an only child, I had the pressure on from my dad more than anyone. Like, I wanted to impress my dad more than I wanted to impress the Wolves coaches, and that's the thing with me that I had, that kind of pressure on me. It drove me, if anything, like there was times where, say, if I'd had a bad game and hadn't scored, I knew that like it was going to be a bit frosty getting into the car after the game.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way. It was just more that I knew that my dad wanted the best for me. But I really felt that. So then when I did score and I did play well, I'd kind of rub it in his face a little bit. So it was like, it really drove me on and it gave me motivation. And I genuinely did think if I didn't have that, then I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have had the career that I had. But that was me, and that was the way that I found my motivation. Like, that was kind of my way of dealing with it. Now, when I speak to parents who've got children in academies like yourself, the big thing I say to them is just try and take yourself out of the equation as much as possible. You've got coaches there who are there for a reason. They've kind of put the hours in to be qualified to train kids. Let them train kids and let you be a parent. And like, you maybe not comment on games or how you think he's played, but just be there as his support and just be there as reassure him that if he has a good game, great, you're there, you're his dad, you love him. If he has a bad game, no worries, there's another one, you're his dad, you love him. And I think that was the big advice I'd give to any parent having a son in the academy, is that take yourself away from the tactical side of things, And that's what I'd say to my dad now, if when we speak about retrospectively looking at things, he's good about it. He's good, and he laughs. We laugh about it now, but yeah. And I've just had a little boy. I've had a son. who's 8 months old. But I'll be pushing him into golf more than football.
No, well, congratulations on your baby boy, and thanks for the advice. I guess, like you're saying about the coach, listen to the coaches. The good thing about the 2 clubs that he's at the moment are parents aren't allowed to get involved at all. So you've just got to stand and watch. And I'm more than happy with that, because I see, like when he goes to tournaments and things and you see parents shouting and stuff, he's been in club places previously, and I hate it, because I knew that's what I used to get when I was a kid, and it really it put me off a lot from football. So I'm quite happy where he is. Coaches are the only ones that are allowed to speak. Parents aren't allowed to get involved, and that's ideal for me.
Yeah, I think that's perfect, and I think that extends to, as like I say, when you get in the car on the way home. Like I think that was always the one for me. Like I knew that my academy was similar. The parents couldn't really shout from the sideline, but I just knew that if I'd had a good game, I loved getting back in the car going home. If I'd had a bad game, I'd be like, oh no, like this is a long journey. I lived in Wolverhampton. I lived 5 minutes from the training ground, and that journey back felt like 3 hours. So like, that's the big thing, is just, like I say, is just making sure that whatever happens, good or bad, your son knows that he's got your 100% support and 100% faith. That's all he can ask for.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I know Ethan had a question there as well.
Yeah, mine was just more building on what you were saying there, Rico. Congratulations, Sam, as well for the Ben. Looking at it, obviously we've got Rico's mentioned his child. Obviously, Mindy's just had a Ben 4 years ago. However old the Ben is now.
A year ago.
Yeah, that was it. Our pal and Captain Owen, he's got a young son who's a goalkeeper, a great young goalkeeper. So we've got all these great dads and their sons coming up. All these kids, and it's something that I'm enjoying seeing my friends having these relationships, because it's something I've not necessarily had with my dad. My dad wasn't there. He wasn't really bothered. He didn't bother himself to come to any match. He still doesn't. I've invited him. He's not asked. But I invite.
It's because he doesn't want to watch you on the bench. That's why.
He doesn't want to watch me on the bench or concede 8. That's why he doesn't want to. Yeah. It's one of the two. So it's something that's really refreshing to see my pals doing that and being good dads to their kids. I think in having that mentorship, as much as obviously we want to live up to the coach's expectations, I think living up to your parents' expectations, like you saying with your parents and obviously your dad there in the car journey, I think it's something really important. I mean, just moving away from that, in case anyone forgot, we've actually got Dean on the podcast, who's also a striker, Sam. And, I would just like to sort of say Dean's a good striker, but he can be better. So I was hoping you could maybe give Dean some tips. I don't know, Dean, do you want to do some drills in front of Sam who can work on your movements and things like that?
Dean, go do some keepy ups.
Yeah, Dean,
I'm not doing keepy ups. I can barely do keepy ups. I barely kick a ball. I was going to come in and actually genuinely ask a question, just more around the confidence side of things, because it's something that I'll find one week I'll play and I'll just be full of confidence, and in everything that I do, I just know that my first touch is going to be good. I know that I'm going to be able to strike a ball, and then other games I play, I don't know, maybe have a bung touch, and then you're like, oh, you're in your own head. I was just wondering if that's something you've struggled with, how you sort of counteract that. Is it just a case of you've done so much practice that you never get it wrong, or just any sort of advice or how you've dealt with that in the past?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, any footballer that says they haven't suffered with a confidence crisis is probably lying. It happens to everybody, it happens to absolutely everybody, especially the ones that I've come across anyway. Everyone goes through it. And it's tough. And unfortunately, if there was an answer for it, I'd be a richer man than most of the footballers. So,
yeah.
There's no real cure for it. That's the realism of it. I think the way that I've always dealt with it is, I don't think, me personally, my confidence issues have always been around my performance, not so much my goals, because I've been very lucky. I've very rarely gone on goal droughts, and that's, that's something that I've probably had all through my professional career. Is like I've never really gone 6, 7, 8 games on a row without scoring. So I've been really fortunate, and I think that's down to my kind of just attitude that if I just keep getting myself into the right areas, eventually one's going to go in. I could miss 20 in a row, but I know that one is going to go in eventually. And I think that's kind of been always my kind of thought process when it comes to kind of football and in terms of goal scoring. I think my performance is different now. I know I've gone through spells where I've struggled, where I've been like, you know what, if I don't play well today or if I don't score today, I'm gonna be on the bench next week. And I think that's really that's always been my biggest kind of gripe, in a sense, is that I know that I'm not at my best when I'm under threat. In the sense that if I know that I've got to score or got to play well to stay in the team, you probably won't get the best out of me. The best you'll get out of me is when it's like, right, Sam, we need you to score today. All the pressure is on you to score. And I thrived under that. When I was at Barnsley, that was kind of how it felt. It felt that when shit was going on and when we were playing crap, it was right, we need Sam to get us a goal and get us out of the shit here. Or in the big games when it's we need to nick a goal, right, Sam will pop up and nick a goal. And I loved that pressure. I loved that feeling of being the kind of person that your teammates, the fans, the staff all look to. That was more kind of when I felt confident most, was when I had that pressure, as silly as it sounds. Really? Yeah, that's how I felt. The worst part of it, the worst kind of times for me have always came when I've felt as if I'm replaceable and that I'm going to be replaced. So I think it's different with different strikers. I mean, not just strikers, all footballers. It's different with footballers, and then some will find it different than others. Some won't like having the responsibility of being the man who they look to score. Some will prefer being that person that, you know what, if I play well, great. If I don't, I don't. But that was never my kind of attitude. My attitude was always, I just hate the feeling of being replaceable.
Yeah. How do you find that, Dean? So when Sam's saying that he likes to be the man, he likes to have the pressure on his shoulders. So I've obviously played football with you a lot, Dean, and I think I know the answer to it. But how do you feel about that? Because
I'm not that guy. I don't. Sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I feel like I'm the guy and I can't be like that. But then other times I don't. So some of my best games are when I play for a new team and I've got no. There's no pressure. There's no expectation. There's no expectation. Nothing to lose. And then you play unbelievable. And then you sign on and then you play like shit. But I can sort of resonate with the. I could resonate with the bit when you're you feel a bit replaceable and you're under pressure. This Sunday, obviously for our team we're flying at the moment, but with Sunday League, when you fly and everybody wants to play, we've got 20 odd players that we need to get down to 16, and I got a chance on Sunday and I was like, yeah, I'm going to have a really good game. I'm up for it. And I didn't play bad. I wasn't horrendous. I was all right, but I just felt like maybe I overhyped it in my head. I put too much pressure on myself to think if I don't have a good game, I'm going to be dropped and stuff like that. So I'm sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Sometimes I feel like I've got loads of confidence and I'm flying and I am that guy. And then other times I'm thinking, oh God, if you squares it here, I might miss. And it's hard to find that balance of getting back in. I think once you start bagging goals, or you get that confidence, you start playing well. It's just getting that run of goals, really.
Yeah, for certain. I mean, you see it so much, even at the top level. You look at people like Richarlison at Tottenham. Look at his first kind of spell, and he's openly admitted that he's got off the field things going on that he's seeking help for, which has affected his performance. It doesn't surprise me that he comes out in the press, says that, and then scores the next week. You know, just that doesn't surprise me. He took the pressure off himself by opening up, by showing a vulnerability. Maybe a weight was lifted by saying that, and the reaction he'd got to it, that he comes on against Sheffield United and scores the equaliser in the 98th minute or whatever it was. So, you know, like, there's no correlation. And that's the thing with confidence and anything like that, is that there's no cure and there's no secret, massive answer for it. It's just something that every person has to deal with differently.
No, thanks for sharing. Ethan, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, mate. Just a quick one, like, just reiterating what you guys saying. I'm not a striker. I mean, I would be lethal if I was a striker. You know, I'm 6'2". You know, built like a brick shit house at 25 stone. So, you know, I would do the business. I'm just saying. But I'm a goalkeeper by trade, not very good one, as everyone will admit. But I'm very much the opposite. I don't thrive under that pressure of having someone breathing down your neck. And it's quite good contrasting. Like, I think for me personally, if I know someone's watched on the sidelines, or someone's in someone else's head, or, you know, Lewis will tell you this as black as night, you know what I mean? It's a case of, I really struggle with that, because it's almost like a paranoia. Like, I must make this pass, I must save this shot, whereas in pre-season, for the first time probably in a while, I had a run of games where there was nobody else there. You know, I still made daft mistakes, and, you know, it happens to the best of us, but I probably played some of my best football. My kicking was better, you know, my confidence was better, things like that, because you don't have that breathing down here. And it's quite the same in the professional game. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, goalkeeper podcasts, and I learn what I can. And you've got David Seaman, who mentioned recently that he loved the fact that if he had a strong number 2 behind him, it made him want to go out and prove, whoever the manager was, whether it was Arsene Wenger or anyone like that, or people before me, wanted them to prove that he was the number 1, and this number 2 might be good, but he's not as good as me. Whereas Peter Schmeichel came out and said he would actually go the opposite way, and he would not want Manchester United or whoever he was at the time to sign another goalkeeper as good as him or in the same domain, because he didn't want that competition. He wanted to be the clear number 1. He wanted to know he was number 1. He didn't want anyone close to his spot, and he thought that would get on his nerves and agitate him. Now, in the press, I want to take it from all years, especially being a goalkeeper. In the press recently, there's a lot highlighted with, obviously, Ramsdale and David Raya at Arsenal. I feel sorry for Ramsdale. You know, he was brought in at a very expensive English goalkeeper, still quite young at the time. He's done a job for Arsenal. Obviously, back in the last year, there was question marks about some of the goals, especially against Southampton, things like that. But obviously, it's clear that he's went out and he's brought Raya in on loan with an option to buy, and he's now looks like number 1, playing in the Champions League, playing the Derby, things like that. And I just want to know, Sam, I'll start with you. What's your thoughts on that scenario? And have you seen that along your journey, maybe with other people in the striker position or other goalkeepers, things like that? If you could shed some light in the professional game, if possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan as well, like I mentioned earlier. So, like, obviously, that's very prevalent in my life at the moment with Raya and Ramsdale. I mean, I do half understand it. I as bad as I loved Ramsdale last year, I thought he was brilliant. I think he is a brilliant goalie, but I do think Raya's better. And I just think that's the simplistic thing of, like, kind of side of it, is that football, it's brutal, and there's no sentiment behind it. Like, yeah, he had a great year last year, Ramsdale, and made some, you know, amazing saves away at Spurs last year, away at Liverpool last year. You know, huge saves that kept us in the title race. But I do think that Ray is probably an upgrade, and that's just the brutality of the sport. And yeah, I mean, alluding to myself, I've had it as well. Yeah, I mean, at Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, I was at Sheffield when I signed for Sheffield Wednesday. We had seven strikers, and I mean, of those 7 strikers, all 7 of them had been successful at that level or higher. You know, it was crazy. The actual players we had, like I say, we had me, Stephen Fletcher, Forestieri, Gary Hooper, Jordan Rhodes, Lucas João, and Atinuhu, and like all 7 of us were vying for 2 places. So, you know, like, and it was difficult. It is tough because, like, even at that stage, when you've got that amount of players who are all experienced pros who are expecting to play at that level, it became difficult because, like, I remember I scored away at Barnsley and played 90 minutes on the Saturday. I was then dropped for the Tuesday game against Rotherham. And then I was out the squad on the following Saturday. And then I didn't get back in the squad. I didn't get, through no fault of my own, I hadn't done anything. I'd scored the week before. And then I was out the squad for 3 weeks. And then I came back in the squad against Fulham to play Fulham, scored, and then was back in the squad for the playoffs. So it's like, it was just, and that wasn't through a bad performance. That wasn't through, you know, me doing anything wrong. That was down to just the manager wanting to go with different options. And I think we all 7 of us probably felt the same way at the time of like, even if we play well, we might not be playing. So like, chance of we got here. And I truly believe that's the reason we didn't go up that year, because we had the best squad in the league that season. I was at Sheffield Wednesday. We had the best like full squad in the league, and we lost to Huddersfield. Well, we lost on penalties to Huddersfield in the playoff semi-final. Huddersfield ended up going up, winning on penalties again. And my life and a lot of others could have been different if, you know, if that had turned out differently, if we would have won on penalties. So who knows? Like, you can't really live in hindsight, can you? But yeah, that's a perfect example of having that kind of scenario where it doesn't matter what you do, you might not be playing.
So what did you do there? Like, what did you do for you to stand out against the 7? How did you try to make you the one who was picked? And I'm thinking this as much from, like, obviously not everyone who listens to the podcast is going to be a professional footballer or an athlete. They may be someone in their workplace. So we'll try and decipher what people can do to, like, the principles. Did you say, right, I have to just really work hard at my trade? Do I have to really listen to what the manager wants? Like what did you do to make sure it was you who was the person who was picked ahead of the other 6?
Yeah, you try and do everything right. I mean, your professionalism really never changes, because I think if you're a professional, you're professional in the good times, you're professional in the bad times. You know, like, I think that should never ever change. That's a certain level that you've got to keep to all the time. Again, it's hard because you actually, like, I could have had a day in training where I scored 50 goals and looked amazing and not play.
Was Ethan in goal?
No, I mean, like, this is what I'm saying. It was just completely out of my control, and that was the only thing that kind of got me through that 6-month spell. Because at the end of that 6 months, I joined Derby on loan, because I was like, you know what, if I'm not going to play every week, I'm 26. You know, I want to go and play, and I want to be, you know, valued essentially. I don't want to just be one of 7. You know.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was just like, it's out of my control. The manager, he's going to pick me at some stage. When he picks me, I have to do as well as I can and do everything that I can control. And if he picks me the next week, great. If he doesn't, well, I did everything I could. But yeah, it's really tough. It was really tough, and that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to go to Derby and why that move came about.
Hello? I think that's one of the things.
Sorry, I'm definitely lagging here again.
Yeah, I think we all went there. Controlling the controllables. I was just sort of laughing a little bit when you were telling the story about the 7 strikers, because I think that whole predicament is sort of where we're at this season for our team. Like, people are looking to having to be dropped even when having good games and stuff like that. So it just made me laugh. But I think I'm the same. Like, I feel like if you don't, going back to Ethan's question about the the competition, I feel like, for me personally, I think it is a hard one when you've got people breathing down your neck, because I feel like I don't feel like I thrive under that pressure of feeling like if I don't smash the game, I'm going to lose my spot. Whereas I think I would prefer to be like the Peter Schmeichel, where there isn't that other guy there, and I feel like that would allow me to to play with that sort of freedom.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was kind of alluding to about when I've played my best football, is that like the best football I've ever played is when I know that I'm the man that the rest of everyone looks to, and having the pressure come from that kind of side, you know, the pressure to be the man rather than the pressure to stay in the side, because they're both pressure situations, but they're very different motivations behind them, isn't there? You know, like, so I think that's where I succeeded and where I always preferred to be, is that, right, I'm the main man. If I don't score, you know what, I've let you down. And I preferred that rather than being, right, if I don't score, I'm out of the team. Because I always thought, you know what, if I don't score, I have let you down. I'm sorry. I will score next game. And that was my kind of like thought process to it, of like, you know what, I can't score every game because I'm not Messi and I'm not Ronaldo. But I tell you what, next game, I will fucking score for you and we will win. And that was like kind of my attitude to it. And it did. It served me well. It served me well in the best parts of my career.
Can I just say, Dean has definitely let us down many a time.
I don't
Is
think
he promising to make up for it though?
Yeah, always promises to make up. Always.
Every week. Every week.
He's doing his best.
Hey, what I lack for an ability, I make up for an effort. So, you know, you'll never see us not running.
Exactly, and morale.
Yeah, that's it.
You're doing a good job.
I'm always on the sideline cheering. I'm the best linesman in the league.
With the flag. Yeah.
I was going to say, you'll be keeping hold of that flag when you find out we've signed Sam and where the club he's been training with.
I can't wait.
Yeah. This is where we'll tell you.
Flag and top off as well. Sorry.
Sorry, mate. My fault again. Terrible lag. I'll have to sort this for next week. This has not happened before. Sam, I think what would be super interesting as well. So we've talked about your football career, which is great. I'd be really keen to understand, and this is probably where we connected on LinkedIn, around what you're looking to do now and what this sort of next stage of your career and probably the rest of your future looks like, in terms of the work you're doing around training to be a counsellor. And obviously you're a huge mental health advocate. What made you decide to go down that path? Because it's not really the most common path for a footballer to go down. Most people say, I'm going to go into coaching, or I don't know, I might invest in some property, some businesses. What made you decide to go down sort of the counselling route?
Well, it was my own therapy journey, if I'm going to be totally honest. I went into therapy myself whilst I was at Sheffield Wednesday. And I think seeing the kind of benefits of working with a counsellor and with a therapist, it really gave me a kind of motivation of thinking, well, you know what, like, I look at the football world and, you know, there has to be so many other players like myself who are probably struggling with one thing or another. Mine was a combination of things, few things within football, a few things away from football, which led me to get a bit of support. And I just thought, you know what, there has to be more. There has to be more people who are in the same situation. And although I got fantastic help, I mean, I work with them now, but it was I contacted Sporty Chance, and I had the sessions through there. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Sporting Chance. They're basically they're a charity for which the PFA use for counselling. Basically, they also have a rehabilitation facility where people can go to rehab for 4 or 5 weeks if they've got addictions and stuff like that. So I do some facilitating for them, going around football clubs, and talking to different kind of groups and teams within football clubs about what Sporting Chance can offer. So I was really lucky. I kind of used their services. I had the therapy, really helped me. And I thought, you know what? I could do this. I could genuinely be that therapist that helps that footballer who feels as if they're struggling, who feels just not quite right, and feels as if they don't know where to turn next. And I just thought that having my level of kind of experience that I've had within football would also help other people to understand that I resonate and that I kind of understand what they're going through. And that might encourage the player to open up. I mean, football is quite an intrinsic sport like that, in the sense that footballers only kind of listen to other footballers or other ex-pros or ex-coaches and stuff like that, because we get stick on Twitter, we get stick on, Facebook, we get stick off crowds. So you learn to block that out. But that probably is a negative when you go and speak to someone who's a therapist who doesn't have a clue about football, So I just thought I could combine the two, but I knew I had to put in the graft to get the education to go alongside the kind of experience that I've had. And you know what? Since I've started the kind of journey of learning how to be a counsellor, I have absolutely loved it. And it has given me so much kind of self-reflection, and it has changed me as a person, tenfold from the person that I was, not just before I started having counselling, but since I started the course and the education side of things. So it's been a massive benefit to me, this journey so far that I've been on, and hopefully moving forward, I can be a massive avenue of support for other sports people that may have been in a similar situation to one that I was in.
Yeah, I think I just want to touch on that because, first of all, well done on what you're doing now to support other people who have been in a similar position of what you have been in. So mental health, I'm quite big on it at the minute because 7 months ago tomorrow, I actually tried to commit suicide after struggling with addiction. So I have been looking into Sporting Chance today and looking at the different things they're doing. It is amazing. Sort of the support they're giving. I guess really for seeing me when I was in that position, there wasn't really any help available because the waiting lists and stuff are all absolutely crazy. It's just, I think every time I rang a different place, it was 9 months, a year, and it was setting me back a lot. It's something I want to try and look at about how, I don't know if it would be possible, but to try and reduce the waiting times, if there was a way of setting something up, it's probably not possible. But I guess it's just amazing that someone that's being a professional footballer, and now you're going on that journey to try and help other people in that same place. I guess I haven't really came clear with message. It's a little bit
you're taken aback.
I mean, it's really it's a really brave and courageous thing to say as well. I think to just completely, to be open about it is amazing. And I really kind of applaud that in a way, because it is quite a difficult thing to be open about. And you're absolutely spot on. The waiting lists through the NHS or the waiting list for just normal counselling is a real issue. It boils down to there not being enough counsellors or there not being enough therapists. That's the problem. There's more people struggling than there are counsellors, and that is, a real nationwide problem that we have. And I suppose, unfortunately, there's not much we can do about that other than trying to be a counsellor, which I'm trying to do. And that is something that, moving forward, if I do, get all my qualifications and do go into having a private practice, that is something that I would obviously look to kind of eradicate, because as you said, if you're struggling and you're looking for avenues of help and you're seeing 9 month wait, 9 months could be too late, and especially like the NHS, through the NHS, theirs is a long waiting list as well.
2 years. Some of it's 2 years, yeah.
It's a 2-year waiting list, and unfortunately, all they offer is CBT. So their kind of form of therapy is only CBT. So for someone like yourself who's having suicidal, thoughts, that wouldn't have even been like the appropriate help. it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So it's a real problem in the industry, and that is something that hopefully with time, the more people that are trying to get qualified and the more jobs that there's going to become out there, hopefully the waiting lists come down. But no, I really applaud your honesty and your courage to come out with that, because it can't be easy.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to go into the story too much, because I came on as a guest initially, and shared my.
He's one of our close friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've just connected with you on LinkedIn, so I'm actually trying to use my journey to sort of help other people, like
Brilliant.
not in a professional way. So you'll be able to see it on there, anyways. But yeah, no, like mine was through addiction, which is why my mental health did get better. So yeah, I guess probably the therapy sort of that was being offered, like you say, probably wouldn't have been relevant anyways. But yeah, I'm through it now. I'm much better, and yeah, thank you for that.
Reese, one thing I'll say about that is you should never downplay the fact of the journey that you've come on, like, and you try and do it all of the time. Like, I've spoke to you from that period to now, mate. You've gone from probably not wanting to leave the house at all, not wanting to speak to anyone, to being a huge inspiration. And I'll say this to everyone, like, the work you've done since, the talks you're doing, to going on various podcasts, to now being a host on a podcast, like, you are nothing short of an inspiration, mate. And I'm so proud of everything that you've done. So keep it up. A big part of, obviously, Sam, what we got you on to talk about, and what Reese is saying around potentially more funding. And Reese, this is probably an idea for you as much as anything, or for you to take thought on what we're actually doing here. We probably never will solve it through just therapy. So, because men, we know this, we don't talk. So I've been in that same position as you previously. Ethan's been at suicidal thoughts before. Dean, I don't believe you have, on the conversations that we've had, but you've been in various different places in your mental health. Podcasts like this, groups getting together like Andy Mann's Club. We're going to be speaking to Luke Ambler very soon. Men getting together and realizing that standing up, or even just speaking up about how you feel, what you're worried about, what your concerns are, what's stressing you out, what's making you feel as bad and as low as you do, that is what's going to make the shift and change, versus thinking how we've all felt previously, is that I am the worst person in the world for what I've done, for what I think, for what I might have lied about, or I'm not being true with myself. This keeps eating me in my head. I don't know who I am. I'm not being who I am as a person. All those types of thoughts that we've all had, we're normal for having those thoughts. It's not okay to have those thoughts, but so many of us have those thoughts. And this message to any man out there who hopefully is listening: if you're having those thoughts, you are not the worst person in the world. You just need to get some help. You need to speak to people. And whether that's a trained professional like Sam, whether it's your mate down the pub, if you really need to go down the pub, whether it's going for a run, whether it's your mates at football, whatever that is, speak to someone. Because I promise you, as soon as you have spoken up, let that little bit of weight off your shoulders by opening up, like I did to Ethan and Dean. And obviously I've spoken to you, Reese, about what happened in my life. Once you lower the pressure a little bit by speaking up, it all becomes so much more manageable. And I promise you, you will never regret anything more, because you won't be here to regret it, than committing suicide. And that really isn't the answer. We started this podcast, Sam, because one of the reasons, me and Ethan both lost a friend. Ethan's lost a few people, and it's really sad that to men under the age of 45, suicide is the leading death for men. And ultimately, we sit here and, as a men's health podcast, a group of 30-odd-year-old lads, saying this isn't right. That the services that are out there, the help that's out there, isn't enough to stop men from doing what they're doing. And we've been there ourselves. And even just us as a group of lads on a Monday night having a bit of crack, ripping each other about, some of them being shit at football, that in itself is enough for us to take the pressure off each week. Because we'll talk about the banter, we'll rip each other, but then we'll talk about conversations like this. We'll get amazing guests like you on, talk about football. I've learned loads about football as much as I have about mental health tonight. And actually, we've embedded a really important conversation around mental health into something as fun as we all love talking about, as we would in the pub about football. And lads can replicate this type of conversation just by speaking up to your mates. And I think that's something that our listeners really need to, if they take anything away, all we are as a group of mates getting together talking with a camera on, but all we're doing is having conversations that we should be having anyway. That's my little spiel done.
No, I think it's a brilliant message to get across as well. I mean, there is still that stigma, isn't there? And I mean, I do think we are making strides. I think we are in a better place now today than we probably ever have been in terms of that attitude that men can be vulnerable. And it's good. It's good that we're on the right track. But we still got so far to go. And like you say, this is a brilliant platform. It's a brilliant platform for people to just have a chat, because this in itself can be an avenue of support. I mean,
that's it.
I'm not a regular with you guys, but I'm sure that for you guys, this is kind of like a bit of a avenue of support for the four of you guys and for anyone else. And that in itself is brilliant, and it is just four guys just having a chat, and it's so simple but so effective. And it's something to be encouraged, and it's something to definitely. That's why I was so happy to come on and kind of join you guys, because I think it's a great message to put forward.
No, really appreciate that, mate. Genuinely, and we are so grateful for you coming on. We do have a last little bits of the podcast here. Ethan leads on a section. He makes it up every week, so apologies if he calls it one of two things, because he can never decide what it is. Ethan has pulled together some very quick fire football questions for after as well. I think we'll all be keen just to understand what the answers to that are. But Ethan, I'll hand over to you, mate.
Thank you very much for the intro, guys. And I appreciate what you were saying before, Lou, and Sam. The things you were saying and deep diving there. Rico's journey's well documented, and he's spreading the word. So massive credit to Rico. And long may it continue. Getting the word out there and getting more people opening up. So basically, Sam, just a quick one, mate. We do something called Hear No Evil, See No Evil. Just a little bit of a lighter tone. So we asked our guests of a book or a podcast that you would listen to or read throughout your period, whether obviously you've played football for quite a while now, whether it's something that got you through your football, obviously something that potentially helped you through tougher times, anything that you would recommend to our listeners or watchers if possible. So yeah, a book or a podcast, my friend.
Well, I'm a big audio book man.
Nice.
It normally comes from the fact that I've had commutes. So I've had commutes to Sheffield because I live Birmingham. I'm Birmingham based. So I've had commutes to Sheffield. When I was at Sheffield Wednesday, I've had a commute to Oxford as well, and both were substantial drives at times. So big audio book man, and I've listened to some. I've really enjoyed listening to other people's kind of stories around kind of mental health. I mean, I'm obviously through my Arsenal connection. I thought Paul Merson's book was fantastic. His second one, especially, I think it's called Hooked. I'm not sure, but is it Hooked? Yeah. I mean, but that's a phenomenal read. Obviously, I have my loyalties because he's an ex-Arsenal player, but excellent read. A big for me in terms of podcasting is I'm a huge golf fan. I love golf, love playing, love watching, love listening to. And I listen to Rick Shields' podcast. He's a big kind of YouTuber, podcaster surrounding golf. And that just gives me quite a level of sanity because it's a sport that I love, and he's giving me all the kind of information I need about it and giving me topics to kind of consider, which is great. So those two are my normal go-tos. But I think the more I go on my kind of counselling journey, the more reading I'm doing of different books and different theories and stuff like that. And it can get a little bit monotonous at times. But I am enjoying it. What I am enjoying is taking bits I like from certain books and kind of moulding that into the way I see things. I actually read a great book called Bounce recently, which was really good, and it's all about the myths of talent and how the guy he was like #1 table tennis player in the country, and his brother was #2. But there was, out of the top 10 in the country, 6 of them lived on his road and were brought up on his road. And it's kind of it's basically a debunking kind of attitude towards that talent is a bit of a myth. That's a great book. I'd definitely recommend as well.
I would recommend. 2 seconds, Ethan. I've got a follow up for you on that one. If you listen to or read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, it's a similar premise. It's all around how successful or why successful people are successful, and it even talks around like dates that people are born, months are born, and stuff. You might have read it, but it's incredible.
I have read books. It's about the September theory, isn't it? That the September babies
school year stuff.
Because of the school year have more of a chance of becoming CEOs and people of success because they have. I've not read the full book, but again, that's a book that I've taken snippets of. It's same kind of premise.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you for that suggestion. No, that's fine. Thanks for that suggestion, Viney. Do you want to tell Sam about Plymouth while you're on again? Just, I'll get back to it. Sorry, Sam, before we're rudely interrupted. But yeah, mate, that's some great suggestions there. Our pal Dino, who has spoke forward today, he usually buys every book on Amazon. So he'll be straight on it.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, sounds good. He says that like he reads any of them. He's got like a shelf. There was a word. What was the word last week? There was a phrase, wasn't there? A bookshelf or no read shelf or something like that.
Yeah,
I'll probably make that up.
Watch the episode back.
Anyway, Sam, sorry mate, so it drifted off there thanks to Vinesy. So I was meant to get some questions off an Owls fan, my pal Rob from down Wednesday way, but he's not come back to me. So we've actually had some questions from our listeners while we've been doing the pod. Just a few people. I also want to point out that Rob is in the bar books for not sending the questions as well. But we'll start with a nice easy one for you there, mate. What type of boots do you wear when you're playing?
So I'm wearing Nike at the moment, the Nike Phantoms to be precise. I've actually, mate, throughout the years, I've probably tried every single boot that you could imagine, and none of them are that great, if I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's so hard. It's so hard to find comfortable boots. And that's because like everyone's feet are different, aren't they? You get some people who've got thin feet, some people who've got fat feet. And I've just got like something in the middle somewhere. So like boots, you have to go some to find boots that suit your feet. But I do really like the Phantoms, to be fair. The new Nike Phantoms have been really nice. So yeah, I'd definitely wear a few more pairs of those.
Top man. Dino's got those on order now. Better than my boots, mate. I wear black Puma Kings. I just look like a fat referee in goal.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Next question, mate. Best player you've ever played with?
I'd probably say probably Barry Bannon at Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, he was.
Good player.
I'm not just saying that because he was my car school buddy. So we both travelled up from Birmingham to Sheffield together for a few years. But no, like he was brilliant. Really, really good for someone who's like, he's only like 5'6", and he's probably 8 stone, piss wet through, but he's just so graceful on a pitch. His technique's fantastic, and he's brilliant. And he's having a bit of a tough start to life back in the Championship with Sheffield Wednesday at the moment because they're struggling a little bit. But no, he's top class player.
No, top man. And this one's a bit from me. Best goalkeeper you've played with or played against? Actually, that's it.
The against could be a big flex here, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure who again. Like I say, I've played against so many goalkeepers, scored past most of them as well. But had to put that in, didn't I, lads? Now, I thought Scott Carson at Derby was really good. The year I was at Derby, we got to playoffs and we had a great year. Really, I think we finished third in the league, so we nearly got promoted automatically. But he was instrumental in that year.
Yeah.
You know, there were so many games that we like nicked 1-0 or 2-1, and he made like 10 saves in the game that you just think, wow, like it's just going to be our day. I think we played Leeds. We played Leeds away, and like I'd scored 2 in the game. We won 2-1, and I'd scored both the goals. But genuinely, he made probably about 15 saves. So even though I'd scored 2, I think he still got man of the match, which is like is insane for a goalkeeper. So he was brilliant that year. But yeah, so I'd probably go for him if I'm going to be honest.
I love how you just casually name drop a Champions League winning 4 or 5 time Premier League winning goalkeeper there. Like, it's
treble winner.
Impressive. Treble winner.
Yeah,
treble winner.
He's an even better person as well. I think that's the best part about him, that he's just a top man. I'm not surprised like that Guardiola keeps him around. You know, he'd be the first to admit that he's not going to be the first name on the team sheet. He's not going to replace Ederson, is he? But like the effect that he'll be having on the dressing room, it just does not surprise me that he's there year in, year out.
It's a tough job he's got though, really, isn't it? I've heard he's top man, by the way. Everyone says he's top man, but I mean that job, third choice. I know he's winning everything under the sun, but you sort of sell your soul, don't you, to do that? You know you're not going to be getting a run out in a cup game. I know a couple of years ago he came on the Champions League, didn't he, for like the last 30, and he played against Newcastle in that, what was it, 4-4 draw a couple of years ago. So it is a tough one. But yeah, I've heard he's top man, so I appreciate that. And a massive flex because he did play for England, by the way.
He did. He did.
Top man.
Yeah. I won't remind you of the game he did play against them, Croatia 2008. But yeah.
It's a difficult one, that, to be fair. So just another one, moving on. Best moment in football to date.
Probably scoring in the playoffs for Barnsley. If I'm going to be totally honest, like, so we got through to. It was a mad season. So at Christmas we were like bottom of the league. We were in the relegation zone at Christmas, and then after that we just went on a mad run where we won, I think, something like 17 out of the last 20 games, and nicked the sixth playoff. The last playoff place on the last day of the season, beating Wigan, and we'd just been on so much form that we just felt unbeatable. And anyway, the first leg we played Warsaw, who'd finished third, who'd finished on like 96 points and not got promoted. And anyway, we absolutely like battered them, and I scored 2. Nice. And I remember like I scored in the second half to make us go 2-0 up, and then got the ball literally straight from kickoff, and I just felt like invincible because like the stadium was rocking. I'd scored in the playoffs. It was a nice hot day. Like I had my family in the box. It was just like it couldn't get any better. So I just thought, fuck it, I'm going on a run. Anyway, I went on a run from like straight right from the halfway line, beat a couple of players, scored again, like to put us 3-0. Wow. Like probably the best goal I'd ever scored on probably the biggest occasion as well. And it was just like, you know, I half blacked out. I remember like I just ran over to the, like slid on my knees and eyes closed, had no idea what was going on. People hugging me, could have been spectators running on the pitch. It could have been anyone, I don't know. Still to this day, I don't know who it was, but you know, that was euphoric. It was that'll take some beating. I mean, that's like as bad as it sounds. My joyous occasions have always come from goals rather than wins. You know, like the moments where you
striker.
Actually, I'm a striker. Yeah, I'm a classic striker, and that's the way we've built. We just built that like we're selfish and we like to we care about scoring goals. But you know, if we score goals, more than likely the team are going to win. So you know, I think that was always my kind of like that high that I chased was those those goals, not just any goal, those important goals, you know, they always kind of hit differently. So yeah, that was my moment.
Top man.
Sounds
I don't
awesome.
think any of us. I don't think any of us have reached that yet.
Definitely not.
I mean, I did score once in Sunday League, which is an overhead volley, and that was quite close to it. You know, it was a
When?
great finish. I can't remember when, but it was quite a while ago. But yeah,
It was in his
so
dreams.
yeah,
It was in his dreams.
Sam, I do get it, and I can relate to that, my friend. But yeah, top notch, mate. I love that. So you, as you mentioned, you're training with an unspecified club. That may or may not be the King's Arms in Killingworth. And you've got years in the tank, mate. Obviously, touch wood, injury free. You know, you can get back to your best scoring goals. Just something from us. What is something you would like to achieve before you do retire, and obviously step into your next steps, which obviously we've discussed already?
You know what, mate? That's really tough because, like, I think I've been really lucky that, like, I have kind of like my goals. What kind of like when I was, you know, starting out or when I was a kid, like the two things I always wanted to do is I wanted to win at Wembley, which I've done twice, and I wanted to score 100 career goals, and I've done that. So it was like, you know, it has been tough really, because kind of like when you get to that stage where you've kind of done the two things that you wanted to do, you know, it's like, what's the next step? Because I could have lied and said that, like, you know what, I want to be Arsenal's number 9, but like the realism of it is like, I'm not good enough. I never was good enough to be able to be that person. So like any kind of form of goal that you have to set has to be realistic. Otherwise, it's just you're just setting yourself up for failure essentially. So right now, I haven't got a kind of aspiration that I could just say, you know what, this is what I want to achieve. I more just want to enjoy the last few years of my footballing career and go away knowing that I did everything I can and that I kind of have no regrets, and that, you know what, it could have been better, it could have been worse, but hopefully I've, you know, put a smile on the people who love me's face throughout the years, and I've helped some of my teammates along the way as well. So, you know, it sounds like a bit boring answer. I'd love to give you a kind of an aspiration, a goal that I've got, but I think when you get to this stage of your career, mate, it becomes different.
Nah, I appreciate that, mate. I appreciate that.
Can I just jump in 1 second? You've lived most lads' dreams. You know what I mean? Playing professional football, honestly, like, fair play. Scoring 100 goals, amazing. You have lived. I know I've dreamt about being a professional footballer. Even still a couple of years ago, I was like, you know what? Maybe I can. You know, it's just something
we've all seen you play, Rico.
About. I've seen you as well, Lou. Don't worry.
Fight.
No, but yeah, no, fair play. Yeah, you've done what most people can only dream of.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like, you know, I don't want to sugarcoat it at all. Like I've gone through a lot of kind of suffering in that time as well. You know, that like it's really affected my mental health at times. You know, my physical health, obviously, through the injuries that I've picked up over the years, like, has taken a bit of a battering as well, and there is a price to pay along that line, you know, and I think all footballers go through that, and it probably doesn't get kind of noticed, or it doesn't get like, no one really seems to care about it, because it's like you say, everyone's kind of says, you know what, you're a footballer, you've lived every person's dream, but there is definitely a kind of a darker side to it that comes alongside it, and there's, you know, challenges that comes for every footballer at some stage, whether it be someone like me who's played predominantly in the Football League. Well, all my career really has been in the Football League, whether it be Championship League 1 or 2, or the lads that are at the absolute top of the Premier League. You know, I mean, you just have to look at like how many top players now are coming out and saying that they've struggled with mental health in the past. I mean, Marcus Rashford has a celebration that he talks about it. Jadon Sancho infamously had quite a few months off last year where he was given an extended break to go and work on his mental health. Paul Pogba as well spoke about it. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison. I mean, the list goes on. So I mean, it just shows that it's not simple industry. It's not the glitz and glamour that everyone kind of stereotypes football as. But again, the highs are really high and the lows are really low. And that's just that's the industry. And that's the one thing I say to anyone who's not been in the industry or wants to get into the industry or has ambitions to get in the industry is just be prepared for that. Just be prepared that the highs are you cannot replicate. They're higher than anything you'll ever experience, other than having a child. Personally, that was mine. But apart from that, football has given me the only highs that you can ever imagine. But then it's also brought me the hardest lows as well. So, if you can prepare for that and you know that that's coming, then that holds you in good stead, especially if you've got a kind of strategy to deal with that.
Yeah, I think that is such an incredible point, and it's probably a great one to end the pod on, because for me, football it's such an emotive sport. It's something as a fan we watch every single weekend, and I really personally I've probably struggled to comprehend how some people can go from that super high of scoring a goal at Wembley, for example, or playing in front of 50, 60, 70,000 people, and then 5 years later you're retired, you don't have that adrenaline all the time anymore. So yeah, I think that's such a powerful point to round on, and no wonder so many people like Paul Merson, as you mentioned before, end up leaving the sport and they look for something else maybe to fill that adrenaline rush, that kick, that hit. And hopefully the work that you go on to do, if you continue down that path that you're doing, can really help some of those people leaving that, because as you mentioned before, I think it takes someone to have experienced the highest highs to be able to sit down and talk to someone about the fact that life just isn't going to be like that now that you've finished playing sport, and actually you need to find new purpose in your life to give you that next set of goals, objectives, to feel that true fulfillment and not constantly chase the next buzz, because nothing will ever get you back to that point again.
And that's the reality of it, really. That is, like you've just said, that's reality of all footballers' career, like that. Unfortunately, it comes to an end. It does. It's not something that you can do for the rest of your life. It is going to come to an end. And I think that you have to have, I'm not going to be saying you have to have a career lined up for the day you retire. That's just not feasible for everybody. I think it's more of a mindset that you have to have prepared. You have to have a prepared that right, I'm going into, I'm potentially retiring now. I need to have the mindset of right, my life's going to be completely different now. How am I best going to kind of deal with this challenge? Because it's a huge challenge. Like most kids are like myself, they've been playing football since. Sorry, most footballers like myself have been playing since they were 5.
Yeah.
If you retire at 35, that's 30 years that you've been doing something, and then now it's just over. It's difficult to consider, isn't it? So it's definitely having something in place, like I say, a mindset in place of how you're going to tackle that change, the huge life change that you're going to go through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sam, I think it'll be really good in post your football career. Obviously, you're welcome back anytime pre that, but post your football career as well, to see how that transition goes for you from being a professional footballer to then how you are getting on with that next phase of your life. I think that'll be a really interesting conversation for us to have. And I'm sure some of the work we're doing, some of the work you're doing, I'm sure our paths will continue to cross, because it sounds like you're doing some awesome stuff and looking to do more future stuff. And yeah, our next phase of the pod is probably to do more in-person type stuff with businesses, people, individuals. I know Reese is trying to set up quite a few sort of public speaking type stuff. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of time for us to catch up and see what happens over the next few years for you as well.
No, absolutely, lads. Like anytime you want to get in touch or bring me back on, just let me know and I'll be up for it. So it's been a pleasure to be on.
Appreciate it very much, mate. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your message with the Everyman podcast. Any thoughts, boys? Ethan, looked like you're about to talk there. No,
I was just gonna. Yeah, nope, yep. I was just about to say, Sam, thanks very much for coming on, mate. Don't check your inbox because Dino's gonna message you about one-to-one coaching. But yeah, I really appreciate your time, mate, and thanks for coming on and sharing your story.
Yeah.
No,
I don't charge much.
I don't charge much. You're such a dick. All right, mate. Thank you. Right, cheers to all our guests and listeners. We will catch you on the next one. Thank you.
Time to grind, get inside your mind. Yeah, we working overtime. That's the only way to climb. We gon' make it in our prime. Signing on the dotted line, cashing checks left and right. That's the way I'm living life.